Jacoby. That's right, folks. It is time to talk Jacoby Walter for the Las Vegas Summer League. We're going to sprinkle a little bit of Jamison Battle and AJ Lawson too.
You are Locked On Raptors, your daily Toronto Raptors podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
It's your favorite part of the day. Thanks for making Locked On Raptors your first listen every day. I'm Vivek Jacob. I've been covering the Toronto Raptors for 8 seasons across several outlets. You can follow Locked On Raptors on X, Instagram, and YouTube. And be sure to check out the Locked On Raptors Discord, where you can talk all things basketball, but especially the Raptors. This episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. It is Thursday, July the 10th, and I'm going solo today. A little programming note. I figure for Friday's episode, I might as well record after the Raptors-Bulls game and just give you my takes on that. And that way you have all weekend to listen to it. I just feel like if I record during the day tomorrow, there's not much value that you'll get out of that. So I think that makes more sense. For today, as I said, we're going to talk Jacoby, we're going to talk Battle, we're going to talk AJ Lawson. I'll also touch on some NBA Cup stuff since the groups were revealed and we know where the Raptors will be matched up. So let's get into it. Let's get into Jacoby Walter. A bit of reporting from Sportsnet Michael Grange off the top. He says that Jacoby has cut off the braids. And so we are going to see a braidless Jacoby at Summer League. I'm curious to see what the look is. Jamal Shed says he loves it. So we'll see. Hopefully we'll all love it too. But to get to basketball, I think, this season we saw a lot of good process stuff. That's what gets me excited about Jacoby. I think I've said that multiple times on this show. I think there's a starting caliber player here, a starting caliber role player, if you will. And, the defense, super encouraging on ball, even transition defense. I feel like he has really good instincts. The cutting, rebounding, running the floor. I think all of that stuff that you want in a role player is there. And I think this is going to be a nice way to maybe transition to being an important bench player first and then working your way up from there. And I think you get those flashes of pop from him that also excite you, whether it's a nice little move off the bounce, a swing to the weak side, a cut, a really smart cut here and there. So I think those are the things that get me excited about Jacoby. In terms of improvement and things you want to see at Summer League, looking at the numbers and his results, 52.7% at the rim. That's something that has to go up. If you want a comparable, someone for him to strive for, you look at Norman Powell over the course of his career, shot 60-ish% at the rim as a Raptor. And I think that's something for Jacoby to work towards and set as a goal. I think that's because of, the funk in his game, that jitteriness, his ability to get to the basket. I think that's something that's going to be there. It's just about finishing, right? And so that is probably the goal he wants to set. Norman Powell, obviously now looked at as an elite scoring role player. And the last couple of seasons, actually, he shot 66 and 68% at the rim. That's on the high end. Let's see if Jacoby can actually get to 60% first, and then we can set some new goals from there. But I think that's a big thing to look for in Summer League, where he's going to be getting the reps. He's going to be getting opportunities to show what he can do on ball, what he's worked on. The Raptors, again, a bit of reporting courtesy, Michael Grange. All the young guys, pretty much from the time the season has ended, have continued their workouts, continued to practice and get their reps in. So I think now is the time to show the value of that and the time that they've put in. The other aspect for Jacoby, 39% shooting between 3 to 10 feet. Now, this is also going to come down to opportunity. I think his offensive role in the regular season, maybe you won't see him shoot that much from 3 to 10 feet. It's going to be more about that analytics style, take shots at the rim, take open threes, and that's kind of it. Because I think, generally you would expect him to be out there with at least a couple of starters, at least one starter. And I think most times two, which is going to be a lot different from last season. But that comes down to you're getting into the paint. You can't quite get to the basket. And so you've got to rely on a floater. You've got to rely on just a little bit of that in between. Maybe, you take a hard drive and then you're going to that turnaround fade, shots like that. And that's another thing for him to maybe showcase here at Summer League. Now, the mid-range 10 to 16, that's where Jacoby, I think for a rookie, showed real strength, really promising stuff. 48% shooting from 10 to 16 feet, I think, is a very good sign for a rookie. And, he's got Kobe in his name. You expect him to live up to the hype. So 48% from there is really good. The threes is where it gets interesting. Interesting because he shot 32% from the corners and 37% on non-corner threes above the break. So most times, obviously, you expect that to be the opposite. But in Jacoby's case, it's very Kobe-like. Give me the harder shot. I prefer that. So I think with Jacoby, the corner threes are something he's going to get plenty of opportunity with, I think, with the role that he's going to have on the Raptors. And so he's got to knock down enough of those. Obviously, it'll have to be a lot better than a 32% clip. Overall, I think what's interesting for Jacoby is, if we go back and we remember, he had the AC joint sprain in his right shoulder. He suffered that in training camp. In practice, took a hard screen from Scotty, and that resulted in the injury. And then he re-injured himself in November, shortly after coming back. So I think that did affect him and his shooting numbers after he came back. And if you look at the splits before the All-Star break, he shot 31.1% from three. After the All-Star break, he shot 41.8% from three. So a 10% spike. That's pretty significant. Now, worth remembering, he only played 16 games after the All-Star break. So take that with a grain of salt, small sample size. But another number that really ticked up is free throw shooting. So 70% before the All-Star break, 93.9% after the All-Star break. So you really look at that and you say, hey, maybe that was just a shoulder issue that he had to get comfortable, he had to work through, and then obviously the NBA minutes as well, adjusting to NBA life and getting more comfortable with that. And those numbers, I don't expect it to be that high next season, but I think that shows some promise and reason to believe if those things are there, if he's a 40% three-point shooter next season, like, watch out. Like that, I think that is the path to him potentially being even a starter by the end of the season. I don't think there's any way he would have that role at the start of the season. He would really have to prove himself off the bench and work his way towards it. But I think those are the things that are really appealing about him, in terms of what we saw after the All-Star break. Let's come back to the defense and to finish off with him. Again, as I mentioned earlier, showed real on-ball potential. I think he's got really good hands, and I think his screen navigation was actually pretty decent for a rookie. It'll have to continue to progress, but I think he's got good instincts. We see the steals. We see even, blocks on occasions. We've seen a few chase down blocks from him. So I think, again, it's like there's just so many different bits and pieces to like about Jacoby. And then as it all comes together, I think there's a prospect to be excited about. Rebounding wise, I think he's got solid rebounding instincts. Maybe we don't get to see it as much on the defensive glass just because, he's defending the perimeter so much, and maybe we'll see more of it this season. But I think especially if you watch him offensive rebound, he's got a real nose for the ball. And I think his offensive rebound rate was actually pretty high for his position. So I think that's another thing that I really like about him. So overall expectations for Jacoby, I would say that I want him to come in and show that he is graduated summer league. Like this is like no longer a level for him. I expect him to come out and really show some pop and bounce to his game, and just be at least through the first 4 games, I think he has a shot at being the best player on the floor. When you look at the matchup, when you look at the guys that he'll be going up against, I think he has a legitimate shot at that. So those are the expectations I'm setting. Maybe they're a bit high, but hey, I got high hopes for Jacoby. So you can look at it as kind of a Mamba challenge, right? On the other side, we will get to Jamison Battle and AJ Lawson. Ever wish managing your money felt easier? With Monarch Money, it can. Whether you're growing your savings or planning a big purchase, Monarch puts you in the driver's seat. It's like having your own personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money is more than a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. So, in addition to managing your money, you're also building wealth. Having all my accounts in one app has been a game changer, and it's just so much easier to figure out exactly what I'm doing with all my money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNBA for half off your first year. All right, we are back to talk some Battle and Lawson. Let's start with Jameson Battle, and let's start with the offense because that's his MO. This is a knockdown shooter, like 40% from the corners, 41% above the break. I thought, gave the Raptors exactly what they needed on that end of the floor. And, looking back, counting back, he had 20 games last season with at least 3 threes. Now, granted, 9 of them did come in the final 15 games of the season when he was getting a lot of minutes. He averaged 12 minutes per game pre-All-Star and then 27 minutes a game post-All-Star. But again, it's really good to see him make the most of his opportunity, right? Like the final game he played, he had 7 threes, and he was just getting the shots up, and that's what you want from a gunner like him. So I do like that he has a bit to his game off the bounce. It's not like, hey, if you can't get him open for the 3, there's nothing much that he can do. I like that he can pull up from the mid-range as well, right? It's not like, okay, I've put her on the floor now. What's my game plan from here? It's, hey, I can shoot 50% from 10 to 16 feet. I can shoot 50% from 16 feet to the 3-point line. So again, a really, really good shooter. And, we've seen a little bit of bounce to his game, a couple of nice dunks that got the fans excited, got the bench excited. So I think offensively, that's why I have him in the starting lineup for Summer League as well. I want him spacing the floor, making life easier for Jamal Shed, for Colin Murray-Boyles, for Jonathan Mobo, and frankly for Jacoby Walter too, right? And I think just having that 3-point threat makes a world of difference, and especially with the competition you'll be going up against, having a sniper like Battle can make a big difference in that starting 5. So I would like to see him start and like help the Raptors hit the ground running in these games. And frankly, part of the benefit of having him in that group will be that you have enough defenders to protect him. Jamal Shed, Jacoby Walter, Colin Murray-Boyles, Jonathan Mobo, like that's a lot of protection for Jamison Battle on the defensive end of the floor. Obviously, that's the area that he needs to improve in the most. I think he has the right spirit about him. I think there's a lot of effort there. And I think, there's times where we see it get rewarded and we really root for him because it's like, hey, man, you're definitely putting in all that you can to try and make something happen and, try and not be a liability. There's times where the lateral quickness or the lack of strength, all of that shows, and he struggles. And I think at the end of the day, this is just a player that what you're getting. We'll see how much he comes along in the strength aspect. We'll see what his body looks like here at Summer League and how that translates over to the regular season. But I think this is a player where you know what you're getting on the offensive end. There's solid value there as a role player in this league, and so just get him in those lineups where you know you can mitigate his weaknesses. Let's move over to AJ Lawson. I think the consistency with his shot is the biggest thing, right? Like I think we've seen in the games that he's got some nice bounce to his game. Can get to the rack and attack a closeout. And I think it's just the shot. When the shot is there, that's when we all get excited. Like he had the 32-point game, the 28-point game, and we were all saying, oh my God, wow. Like there's some scoring potential here. There's some real pop to his game, but it's the consistency. And I went back and I was breaking down some numbers, so he comes to the Raptors, starts 5 for 20 from 3, so 25%. Then he has that hot streak where he goes 13 for 28. That's where he has the 32-point game, the 28-point game. And then when you want to see him build off that and really establish himself, I mean, good enough, he was able to secure himself a contract. But after that, he shot 13 for 48 from 3 the rest of the way. So 27% after that little hot streak. So I think that's something, overall, when you put those numbers together, he shot 33% from 3 as a Raptor. That's not going to be good enough. I think that's a number that would have to get into like the 37, 38% range at a minimum. And, there's going to be variance with the 3-point shot, but when it all adds up together to just be 33%, that's when it's not good enough. And so, to have the majority of his shooting during those final couple of months be closer to 25% than 40%. I think that's where the concern is. And, we'll see how he's able to round out that shot. And I think that's probably the main reason why he's kind of, bounced here and there and been trying to find that opportunity. To wrap up, we are going to talk some NBA Cup. All right, so talked about pretty much everything we need for Summer League. I'll wrap up with some Summer League as well. But for now, the NBA Cup groups were revealed. The Toronto Raptors are in with the Cleveland Cavaliers, the Atlanta Hawks, the Indiana Pacers, and the Washington Wizards. I think overall the groups ended up, at least for the East, ended up being pretty even because of the injuries. I think the Raptors, if you look at their group, they probably figure to be the third best team in the group, and they'll need to pull off some upsets to make the quarterfinals. Obviously, you put the Cleveland Cavaliers as number 1, and then the Hawks with their moves, you'd say they're 2, and then the Raptors. So is there a way to get to first place? I think that's the challenge with the NBA Cup, because as a reminder, there's 6 groups. So the 6 group winners automatically go through to the quarterfinals, and then they take the 2 best second place teams. And so for that, you've got to get the point differential. You've got to have the win-loss record. And that's where it gets tough. So can you win the group? That's going to be really, really challenging. You're going to have to be pretty much perfect in these games. And then after that, second place, you're going to have to do some damage as far as the point differential is concerned. I was talking about the injuries in terms of how that's had an impact on the East. Like, if the injuries weren't there, you'd look at Group B in the East and say, man, Boston, Detroit, Orlando, Philly, having those 4 teams in one group. If Boston was still Boston, like if Tatum was healthy, then they probably don't make the trades, involving Holiday and Porzingis. And so that would have been like a group of death. The real group of death, I think we can pretty safely say, is Group C in the West. You got Houston, Denver, Golden State, San Antonio, and Portland. So I think you've got 3 title contenders in that group, and then you've got San Antonio that's on the rise. They're not gonna be an easy game. And then Portland had a pretty decent end to last season. They're looking to, build off of that, and now they've got Drew Holiday in the mix as well. So I think that's gonna be probably the toughest group that's out there. As far as expectations for the Raptors in the NBA Cup, I think it would just be nice to have those final couple games matter. I think the first two editions, the Raptors have been eliminated pretty early on, and so we've had these games towards the end with just no consequence. So I think progress would be just, hey, can you go into the last game or the last couple games with something to play for, as opposed to having lost the first two games and already being out of the mix. As far as what the NBA Cup means, I think the easiest way to look at it is probably say, hey, the Lakers won the first one and were eliminated in the first round of last 2 years now ago in the playoffs, and then you had the Bucks win it this previous season and they get eliminated in the first round. So what does it really mean? Funnily enough, it probably means a little bit more for who ends up as the runner-up, because the Pacers lose the first final and they end up in the East Finals. The Thunder lose the NBA Cup final to the Bucks, and then they end up being the NBA champions. So if I were to draw parallels between those two teams, it'd just be, maybe more so like young teams who feel like they have something to prove, young teams who feel like they want to use the NBA Cup as a stepping stone towards having success in the postseason. And I think both the Pacers and the Thunder were able to do that. So can the Raptors kind of be that team to say, hey, like, we're a team to watch out for this season, and we might be ready to surprise people, and maybe don't put such low expectations on us. Maybe I think that's how you want to look at it if you're a Raptors fan, if you're the Raptors itself. Wrapping up, just going into Summer League, I think this is a strong squad overall for Summer League standards, right? And so having said that, as the Raptors, own it, right? Don't come in acting too cool for school and like trying wild stuff and treating it like, it doesn't matter. You've named a strong squad. You've named Jamal Shedd and Jacoby Walter and Jonathan Mobo, and obviously Colin Murray-Boyle is going to be there. So you want to set the tone for the bench unit next season. Let's see that competitive spirit right out of the gate. I want to see energy and intensity, establishing an identity for that bench unit come the regular season. Obviously, we saw some of that in the tail end of last season, but let's put it in full throttle, full gear come game one. 4 games on the schedule as of right now. Bulls Friday, Magic Sunday, Nuggets Tuesday, and then the Warriors on Thursday. So I think there's an opportunity for the Raptors to go 4-0. If you look at the Bulls, the squad for Summer League, they've got, Matas Buzelis. You might recognize a familiar face in Javon Freeman Liberty, JFL. And then they've got Noah Senge, who, the Raptors could have potentially picked. So that's going to be a fun matchup, but I think the Raptors have the stronger squad. The Magic on the Sunday, Jace Richardson's going to be there. Tristan Da Silva's in there. Noah Penda was a late first round pick. So beyond that, again, it's the Raptors who have the better squad. So Nuggets Tuesday, Day'Ron Holmes is probably the main guy you're looking at if you're the Nuggets. They've got Hunter Tyson in there as well. And then the Warriors don't really have anyone of major significance. So I think you got 4 games that you can win all 4. So come out, get it done, play with that intensity. Again, own the fact that you have named a strong squad and you want to get it done. And so, I'm looking forward to seeing this group play, seeing this group compete, and seeing this group win. If you want to carry on this discussion, head on over to Locked On Raptors Discord. Link is in the description. Thank you for making Locked On Raptors your first listen today. For your second listen, find the Locked On NBA podcast, where there is no offseason. Doug, Matt, and Hayes keep you up to date on contract negotiations, rumors, and everything you need to be the most informed NBA fan. Find Locked On NBA on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.